Hey everyone, this is Brian Drummond, voice actor for roles such as Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z, Knuckles from Sonic Underground, Marvel's Wolverine and Venom, and Jetstorm, Jolt, Shockblast, Blurr, and Jetfire from Transformers, and hundreds more. And you're watching In Conversation with Amber the Fangirl.
Hi guys, Amber here. Welcome back to In Conversation with ATF. I can't really see them because it's kind of today is a very special day because I get to talk to Brian Drummond. Brian here, or whichever way you have to do that, because Zoom always messes it up, and sometimes if I point that way, I'll do the opposite way. But yeah, Brian, you may know as the voice of Vegeta in Dragon Ball Z, Knuckles,
the original,
the over 9,000 guy.
Yeah.
Knuckles in Sonic Underground, Jetstorm in Transformers Beast Machines, Blurr in Transformers Armada, Shockblast in Transformers Energon, Jetfire and Jolt in Transformers Cybertron, Venom in Spider-Man Unlimited, Streaky the Super Cat in Crypto the Super Dog. That's another show I grew up with, and many, many more. Hello, Brian.
Woo-hoo. Hello. So glad I could be here. Nice to meet you, Amber.
It was nice to meet you too, and we were introduced to each other by the lovely Lee Tokar, who I spoke to recently.
Yeah, so we've been around this game for a long time. I can't even count the number of shows and characters that we've played together and worked together on. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we haven't been able to be in the studio together for it's almost 2.5 years now that we've been able to be in studio at the same time as other performers. But hopefully, we can start to get through and get back to that again. Because boy, do I miss it! I'll tell you.
Yeah, well, I haven't had the chance or like the experience of recording in a booth with people because obviously I only recently got started in the business and I've done a lot of my stuff from home. So there is that. But I'd really love to visit Vancouver someday or Los Angeles or wherever they do like all the voice acting and stuff, because it'd be really cool to sit in a recording session. I have been invited by a few people to sit in a recording session, so yeah, I feel.
Well, if we're back into doing recording sessions next time you're in Vancouver, just let Lee or myself know and we'll find a way to let you watch.
That'd be really cool.
Fun. Yeah.
That'd be really cool indeed, Ryan. So thank you for coming on my podcast. I really appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
And as you said, you're in Vancouver. I'm in England. It is hot over here. We're having a heat wave. At the time of this recording, the 19th of July, it's only about 9 p.m. right now, and it's still hot.
Wow, it's not even going to cool down. It's crazy. What Europe is kind of getting what we got hammered with last summer. We had one of those. I think it was more into August, but never experienced that kind of heat in my life for about 10 days in Vancouver in the 40s. Just crazy heat.
Yeah, hottest summer we've had since 1990.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
it's been a while.
And because we don't have aircon, we have to suffer for it. Yeah, that's the sad thing about it. Anyway, Brian, I'd like to get started by talking about, of course, Transformers. Because my absolute favorite. My favorite toy franchise. I'm biased. So you were in the Unicron Trilogy and Beast Machines. So what was it like working on those shows? Because I know Beast Wars was voice directed by Susan Blue. I don't know about Beast Machines. Was that done by her as well?
Yes, it was. And Sue Blue cast me in my very first voice acting role ever. And that was a G.I. Joe series, which was done mid-90s. It was called G.I. Joe Extreme. And I was originally cast as a character. He was named Ballistic at first, and I still have a toy that actually calls him Ballistic, but they changed his name because they thought that was maybe a little bit violent, and they wanted to go with something he's a sharpshooter kind of guy, so they changed it to Eagle Eye. And that I got to work with Sue Blue on that one, which was a treat because she was the queen of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and so many amazing programs. And really shortly after that was when I ended up doing Vegeta and Dragon Ball Z, and then right into Beast Machines. Beast Wars, I did not book a role on because I think it was kind of just as I was getting started, but I booked a role on Beast Machines as a Jetstorm on that one, and that was just a blast as well. She's so fun to work with, and she always has always really high energy and just pulls it out of the performances of everybody.
Yeah, I agree. I've interviewed her for my channel, and she's just such a delight to talk to. She's done so much. I'm looking at G.I. Joe Extreme here. I've noticed this with a lot of Sunbow cast of television shows. It would start out like, with like the original Transformers and G.I. Joe, they would have American casts, and then with the later shows like the 1990s Littlest Pet Shop series, also by Sunbow, they would have a Canadian cast. I'm not sure, were you involved in that at all? That Littlest Pet Shop series? I can't remember. I know Lee was, but
yeah, I did a number of Littlest Pet Shop things. So I don't know in the 1990s.
Oh yeah, you did the 2012 one, which is another show I grew up with.
Yeah, I did a lot on that one, and then sort of a series of shorts that we did that were after the 2012
one.
one,
A World of Our Own.
Yeah, but not the 90s Littlest Pet Shop, not at that time. Before I was just a youngster getting going in the business, and now 30 years later, I'm the old guy in the business.
Well, at least you're helping new voice actors like kind of pave their way so that they can become what you are.
Absolutely. I've been lucky enough to do some work and do some teaching at On the Mic training in Vancouver, which is a great training facility for voice performers. And I've met a lot of new folks there that are up and coming, and I mentor some and work with some to help them with auditions and things like that. So it's pretty exciting to see someone who could sort of incorporate some of the ideas and things that I've learned and mistakes I've made, but learned from over many years, and create their own successful careers in the business. So it's nice to see that happening. And I've had just a phenomenal career, and it's still flying along, but it's great to work with new people.
Yeah, of course. Also, going back to the Sunbow stuff, I know obviously they did G.I. Joe Real American Hero, and then they moved the production to Deke Animations, and they changed the voice cast to a Canadian voice cast. And I think they only kept, only Morgan Lofton as the Baroness and Chris Latta as Cobra Commander. They did their lines in LA. Everyone else did their lines in Vancouver, and then they changed that for the second and third season. So it is, it's not the first time G.I. Joe has had a Canadian cast. So,
No, well, it was sort of, I didn't work on that original one, but in the late 80s and early 90s, there was a little bit of that crossover. The voiceover industry was really starting to grow, and Vancouver had the facilities and had the recording studios. They're great recording studios here in Vancouver that have recorded some of the greatest, rock bands ever, like Bon Jovi and Aerosmith and Bryan Adams. There's just amazing studios and sound studios here that sort of started to branch out. And because they had phenomenal facilities, they started to take on more recording time with animation. And it really started to blossom in those late 80s and early 90s, so that LA producers and shows realized Vancouver's a pretty hot place to do this work too, and that's why you probably started to see some of that crossover. And of course, they could do, if the dollar was strong in the States and a little bit weaker in Canada, it's a little bit cheaper to do it here, because if the Canadian dollar is only worth maybe 70 or 80 cents at the most to the American dollar at the time, you're getting a good bang for your buck with also great performances in Vancouver. So it can be a little bit more cost effective to work up here too.
Okay, so I'm probably just gonna jump up there. What was just talking about? I have a short memory. We were talking about Vancouver.
We were talking about how some shows in the early 90s, they do some stuff in LA and then some in Vancouver, and you'd see a little bit of that crossover in the early days.
Yeah, indeed. It would have been cool to I know they were gonna get Frank Welker for Beast Wars to reprise his role as G1 Megatron, but it was something to do with timings, and apparently his fee was too high. I can't say that for sure, because last time I said that for sure, I got cancelled on Twitter. A long story. Basically, there's a documentary called I Know That Voice, and it's full of voice actors. I made it. Someone asked him on Twitter why Frank wasn't in it, and I heard someone say that his fee was too expensive. So I was just relaying what someone else had said.
Yeah, it's always hard to...
I didn't realize that about 15 voice actors were tagged in the thread. A lot of them who I knew and I have already interviewed. So, cue me getting loads of angry people with pitchforks. I'm like, and they're like, no, because he was just too busy and he was too shy. I'm like, okay. And then John Tobashi was like, delete this tweet. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. I know that apparently it is true, because I think it was one of the writers who said that. So they just got that excuse me, Gary Chalk to voice him instead.
Yeah, well, it's really hard to know. I mean, every production, everywhere, budget is a big part of it, and
Yeah.
but we don't know the full story with what. Like, I mean, even with Dragon Ball Z, it originated. We started in Vancouver and did 60+ episodes, and then it moved to Texas. The producers moved it down there, and that's money related. It's cheaper to do it down there, and we were union performers in Vancouver. I mean, it wasn't like Brian was charging too much, or Lee Tokar was too expensive, or Gary Chalk was. It's not usually the case. There's usually a bigger picture reason for it, and sometimes you got to fly your directors up there, and you've got to transport people, and sometimes the studios cost more money, and it's not just the actors. So it's the big picture, and putting together an entire animated series, hugely expensive. And surprisingly enough, the voice performance cost of an animated show is minuscule. It's nothing compared to the cost of animating a show and marketing a show and a post-production and sound and all engineering. It's the voice work is a small part of it. So yeah, sometimes that might be the issue. There might be an expensive performer, but it's not often the case. There's usually other factors involved.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Let's move on to Transformers. Now, as I said, I kind of did a jump cut there because I forgot to get these. So I have these. Of course, you were the voice of Blurr and Armada. I've only seen the first 3 episodes, so I don't know if he appears in season 1, but I have this.
Oh, cool.
Volume 1.
I think I might even have that one. I don't know if I've watched it yet.
This volume 2,
oh, wow.
which has another
cool.
4 episodes.
Okay.
And this.
Oh, wow.
3 episodes.
Oh, wow.
So it's like the first, I'd say it's 3, 7. Yeah, the first 10 episodes of season 1. I'm gonna have to look up what Armada Blurr looks like, because me being could it be?
Was that him on the front?
Oh no, it wasn't. It
no.
Oh, fools. But hopefully I'll see him, because I know that all the episodes are on the streaming service. Like, I'm not sure if you're aware of it. There's a TV channel in the UK called Freeview. Well, it's like a TV manager, and they have this kids TV channel called I can't remember what it's called. What's it called? Called Yas.
Oh, really?
They have nearly every single episode on there of Armada, Energon, and Cybertron.
Whoa!
You'll have to watch it through that, definitely. So what was it like to work on the Unicron trilogy?
Well, there was a number of different characters, because I guess that's Shockblast. That would have been Blurr, Shockblast, Jetfire, and Jolt. Where that's in Armada, Energon, and Cybertron. It's different than doing Beast Machines, because Beast Machines was a prelay, so you get to work with the whole cast, and you're all in a room and bouncing lines off each other, and Megatron saying a line, and then you're one of the bad guys saying a line, and you're bouncing your own ideas off other performers with the director listening in. Doing whole sequences of the script is really fun. That's what I live for as a performer. Whereas Armada, Energon, and Cybertron, those were all dubbed, so we were dubbing already animated shows. So we just had to go in one at a time. You would dub just your lines. So it's harder to get a real feel for the show and what's happening. The director lets you know, but you're kind of on your own, sort of like we are now. It'd be like you're the director and I'm the actor. You put the line up on the screen and tell me how to do it, and I say it, and we move to the next one. But you don't really get to do a whole scene together with your fellow actors. So dubbing to me has never been as much fun as prelay work, but it's fun coming up with the voices and coming up with the ideas for the show and seeing it when it's all put together. That's a blast. And of course, the fans are epic in Transformers. So that's probably 99% of the fun, is catching up at fans with events, which I don't get invited to enough Transformers ones. So I have to put that out there. Transformers cons, have Brian out.
I'll get you to TF Nation. I'm trying to get Lee to TF Nation.
Oh, I'd love to go with Lee. That would be a blast. But yeah, super fun to do. series, but not quite as much as exciting as the shows like doing Beast Machines and Beast Wars. Those are just too much fun.
I agree. Yeah, it's more fun to like, act and like, you can do whatever you want and stuff like that.
Well, you kind of get to do a whole scene, which is different as a performer. You get to do a chunk of dialogue, bounce your ideas off each other, and it's kind of like us having a conversation. If someone told me, you just sent me your questions, and then I had to go record the answers by myself, but not get to have a conversation with you, it is super boring compared to having an interaction with a human being or another actor. It's way more fun.
Yeah, and of course, Blurr and Shockblast, Shockwave were already established characters by then. So when you did Blurr, did you have to talk fast like John Machita, or did you have to just talk at a normal pace to kind of fit in with the dialogue?
No, well, a lot of it has to do with mouth flaps. It's definitely has to do with what the writers give you, because I didn't write the dialogue. So whoever was writing it, if they're just trying to match mouth flaps and not ignoring it, so they might have been going, well, he's got this many flaps, so he's going to say this many things. Whereas the original ones, those weren't dubbed. Those were performers who got to come up with the characters and do it really fast, like Blurr, but not with us. We were matching mouth flaps. So we didn't quite have the same kind of choices to make. And they weren't having us try to really match original characters as much, except for maybe a couple. Like sometimes they want Megatron in a certain place, and they might want Starscream in a certain place. Like there's certain voices that they kind of want in a ballpark area, but other ones they kind of like let us do what we wanted with them a little bit to make them our own.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I recently found out when I interviewed John Machita that the character Blurr was actually created for him, because obviously at the time he was like the fastest talking human in the world. So they were like, okay, you know what, screw it, we'll make a character for him to put in the new Transformers movie. So which I thought was really cool. Fact.
It is.
Yeah,
that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and of course Shockblast was pretty much Shockwave. So I'm presuming like did you try and give him the same cold stock David Warren like voice that Corey Burton did in the original G1 series, or did you put your own spin on it? Because I don't think he didn't have mouth flaps, because it's just an eye that he has. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. There's sometimes when they don't have mouth flaps, you're still, with dubbing, you're tied to what the writers gave you to say in a certain period of time. So you have to start the line here and end it there. If you start too soon, there's a big gap after the last person spoke. And if you end too soon, there's a big gap. So you have to fit in what the writers put in there. And a lot of that's going to be up to the writers. So if they gave you a line that you wanted to really slow down and give it a pedantic read, or one that like Blurr you wanted to really speed up, that might not work based on what they did. But I know I didn't listen to any previous characters at all, and they didn't ask us to. They just told us to come up with our own ideas for the characters, and then we might have tweaked them a little bit and give them some different attitude or edge in the session. But I know I just came up with my own ideas myself. I didn't research who had played anything before me.
So, that's really interesting.
Not at all.
It's really interesting though with their own take, because I don't know if people would class Shockblast the same as Shockwave, or because it's a different name, but it's a different color scheme as well. There was an animation error in the original G1 cartoon. I'll have to try and find it now, because of course I've always got to show stuff. G1 Shockwave animation error. Shockwave was pretty much killed off in the 1986 film, but he returned in a future episode, but he was miscolored, like very similar colors to Shockblast. Let me just quickly well, not I suppose similar. Let me just try and load this up. Here we go. Okay, right, we ready for this? Okay, just shut these down. Okay, here we go. Screen share time. So of course here we have the lovely Shockblast from Shockblast Rampage, and you have to bear with me because my computer usually freezes when I start screen sharing. So
okay, that's what I'm like. I'm not seeing it yet. It's not here yet. Maybe, there we go.
Yeah, it's because my computer always freezes when I start screen sharing on Zoom for a few seconds. So we see lovely little Shockblast here. He looks I love him. And then
I love that color scheme.
I love it as well. I think it's
Yeah.
really cool. And then in Five Faces of Darkness, Shockwave reappeared in a different color scheme, which pretty much predicted Shockblast.
Yeah.
G1 Shockblast, pretty much.
Yeah.
So that's basically, well, we're not, no one's sure if it was a miscolor. It could have been a miscolor because obviously he was killed off in the 86 film. So
yeah.
Gosh, no, God.
It's just to give us all questions to ask at every convention. What happened?
What happened and why?
And you'll be surprised by how little we remember when we work on those shows, especially when they're that long ago, coming up with voices. Sometimes you're just put on the spot to come up with what you're going to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes you put a lot of time and effort into it and they don't even use it and they change their idea when you get in there. So it's sometimes it's a bit of a crapshoot and you're flying by the seat of your pants to make everything work. And that's not just the voice people, that's the writers trying to come up with the story that works and then with coloring and creating the characters. There's sometimes, I think it's maybe not near as much thought, goes into those things as it does now. Like, boy, they, newer shows, they really stick to, especially when you think of the MCU, how much work they try and go back to character arcs and story arcs. And what did they say in that episode and Star Wars and things like that? Like, what did they say way back then that we can actually use? And it'll ruin the whole plot if we say that, because 9 episodes ago or 50 years ago, they said this. It's tough. It's got to be really tough for someone to keep that all together. And Transformers is such an epic toy line and storylines and character lines that I don't know how they keep it all together. And so many characters too. It's impressive is what it is. They need people like you to tell us how to keep it together.
Oh, thank you, Brian. I know. Have you heard of the new Transformers BotBot series?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Are you in it? Oh,
no, I'm not in it. I think, I don't know. I think they record it in Toronto. They don't record it in Vancouver, but I'm not in it. I've seen it. It's super cute. Yeah.
What about, because I know Devon Mack's in it, and he's obviously in Sonic Prime, which you're in as well. I thought Devon was from Vancouver.
No, Devon. Devon works in Vancouver and Toronto, but he lives in both kind of locations, but more time in Vancouver, especially since COVID. There wasn't a lot of flying back and forth between studios or being able to stay out here as long as he'd want to. So he's been settled in Toronto for at least 2.5 years or so now, more than coming to Vancouver, because just travel has been not as safe to do. So if Devon's in it, he's definitely recorded it out of Toronto.
Because I've heard a lot of apparently like Toronto work isn't unionized. I've heard from people, because usually when they change, I know, take George's Jungle for example, the first voice cast was from hold on,
we did a George of the Jungle in Vancouver.
Yeah, he did in Vancouver, then it switched to Toronto because they wanted to go cheap. Or something
well, if they went to Toronto, I don't know. Well, most of the shows I know in Toronto are unionized shows, just like Vancouver. It's a union of ACTRA is our union. UBCP is the British Columbia branch of ACTRA, which is the Canadian Performers Acting Union. So most shows are, but there are shows that are done non-union, which use non-union performers in them. So I don't know if that's what they did on that second rendition of George of the Jungle. I don't know, but it was a union show we did here in Vancouver, and I'm pretty sure the BotBots one is as well. My guess would be.
I was going to say, because the past few Transformers shows have been non-union, apparently. I think War for Cybertron, Cyberverse, we had a New York cast, I think. Well, I don't know, people say War for Cybertron isn't union because it has a lot of LA-based voice actors and a few New York ones, but they're definitely part of SAG-AFTRA. It's just all too confused, and they're like, oh, you don't want to get into it. It's a big mess. I'm like, okay, it's hurting my tiny little head.
It's a little confusing because there's most actors, boy, we all just wish you could work on whatever project, wherever, and be paid, a strong living wage to do it. So, but there's different rules in not just each country, but in every state or every province. Like the Union of UBCP in British Columbia has different rules than they do in Ontario, which is Toronto, and where ACTRA, where Devon is working on that show. Different rules with SAG-AFTRA in LA, different rules in New York, Texas, different rules, a lot of non-union dubbing done out of Texas. So almost every show there, I don't think, is a unionized show. All of the anime that's done there. There's a few anime shows that are done in LA that are union, but a lot that aren't. So
yeah, a lot of Funimation isn't union.
It's not at all. No. So it's complicated. It's really pretty complicated. But everything I work on, 99.99% is union performances, and union productions. So
it is complicated, but thank you for explaining it in simple terms.
it's not simple, but I'll try to make it understandable.
Doesn't make my head hurt. So
no, good. Makes my head hurt sometimes. I know in new performers, they're like, what can I work on? Can't I work on? When am I allowed? What am I? And like we talked about earlier, every production wants to try and do it for less money. And yeah, you can use non-union performers for less money, but in many cases, non-union performers don't have the credits and the experience of a union performer. So sometimes it's a step down in quality. That would be my opinion. And and most people that do work in non-union as actors would love to be part of the union and just work on union shows, because you're just paid better and looked after, and you have some insurance benefits and things that can come along as a performer to take care of you when times are good and when times aren't. And with actors, man, it's great year, weird year, great year, terrible year, up, down, flat, up. It's hard to sort of rely on your career as a performer, and unions can help with that.
Yeah, definitely, I agree.
Look at me, I'm like raw union guy here.
I don't know what it's like in England because I'm not part of equity or anything like that. But hopefully one day I'll learn the ropes.
Yeah, well, you got a great voice, so I hope you can get some gigs. Maybe we'll be on a show together sometime. That would be amazing. Yeah, I always love it when people who sort of start off, with YouTube channels or doing just small online or TikTok things, and get into the voice industry, and then we end up on a show together. It's kind of epic. It's like you've taken your own route and made your way into the industry just by the sheer will, which is impressive. And I look forward to having a chance to work with any new performer that gets a shot.
Oh, thank you, Brian. That means a lot to me. So, Brian, awesome. Yeah, I have the fan here, so I'm just fidget with. Brian, you have 3 children, if I'm correct.
That's correct. Yes.
And they're all voice actors.
Well, they've all done some voice in the past, and currently, my oldest son Aiden went to theater school, did voice work as a little guy, and then went to theater school and has done voice as an adult, and is currently on a few things right now. And my middle daughter, who's my oldest is 27, my middle one is 24. She's in theater school as well, and has done voices on a number of shows as well, Ninjago and a few pretty fun productions. And my youngest was more interested when she was when she was smaller. She was on a series called Martha Speaks, and she did a bunch of Barbie movies as the youngest sister, Chelsea, and a couple of movies as well when she had just the sweetest little voice. But as she grew up, she was not as interested like the other two in acting, and she's in college right now, being the brainiac of the family and getting all those amazing degrees and things. So I'm proud of her for that. But I wouldn't, although she's quite interested in working in different aspects, maybe in the film industry, not really as a performer. She's leaving that to her dad and brother and sister right now.
So there's Aiden, there's Brenna.
Yes, that's Brenna. Yeah.
Is she the oldest or the middle?
She's the middle. Yeah.
Middle. Who's the oldest?
And Aiden is the oldest, then Brenna and Ashlyn is the youngest.
Ashlyn. Oh, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So wait, I'm a little bit confused. It might just be the heat. Who went to college?
Aiden has graduated from theater school.
Yeah.
So he's out of theater school already and working in the industry, doing auditions and voiceover gigs, stuff like that. He's coming over tomorrow to do a bunch of auditions in my studio already. And my middle one, Brenna's in theater school. She actually graduated from a production program.
She the one who did voiced Chelsea, or was that Ashley?
She was on Ninjago and a number of other things when she was younger too. And recently in Ninjago, the youngest one did stuff when she was mostly just little. She was on a series called Martha Speaks.
So that was Ashlyn, right?
That was Ashlyn, the youngest. Yeah. So a couple of them, theater school, college, and the youngest one in university, taking all kinds of amazing courses.
Oh wow! So wait, so Aiden,
he's the oldest. Yes.
Aiden's the one who's the brainiac of the family.
No, the youngest. That's Ashlyn.
Ashlyn.
She's in university.
She's in university.
Yeah, she's 21 already. I know, that's my youngest. Yeah.
I feel old. I'm 18 and I'm still in college.
Oh, hey. Well, look, you got 3 years till you catch up.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. But wow, I really need to get outside more. I have a fan in here and I'm still too hot. I'm
I
hallucinating.
know.
Yeah, definitely. The final thing I want to touch base with you on, Brian, is
Yeah.
Sonic Underground. Now I know we haven't done a lot on this interview, but there will be a part 2 in the future when there
Yeah.
isn't a heat wave, when it's nice and cool, when it's autumn or winter. I promise. You're
Yes.
going in my notes to say definitely needs to do a part 2. No questions asked. Yeah.
Sure.
So Sonic Underground, that was like my childhood.
Yeah.
I watched it on Pop, and I remember a lot of the episodes. The Flying Fortress one, as I said before the interview, was a dear favourite of mine. I remember watching it, and I remember we had a caravan in Shropshire, and we'd always go to it at the weekend, and I'd be like watching Sonic Underground in the morning, then I'd get dressed, and then we'd leave at lunchtime, and just, man.
Well, yeah, that was a fun one too. And it was before, I mean, I was at that point, I didn't grow up playing those video games, so it was after my time of sort of being involved. So I didn't know the series as well as maybe I should have working on the show, because it's still very early in its sort of different iterations. I mean, it had some shows, and Sega had only just recently come out with some of the games in the 90s, competing with Super Mario and those guys, right, with Nintendo. But and I don't even know what I remember when I was cast as Knuckles. I had no idea what an echidna was. No clue. I was like, you're Sonic, you're Knuckles, the echidna. I'm like, what? Someone will have to tell me. And there's not like we didn't have computers at home where you could just jump on and type in echidna and get an instant picture of the most adorable little furry creature you've ever seen. You'd have to go to a library and find a book to get a picture and find out what it was. But basically, they were like, well, he's kind of like a hedgehog, but in that family. But he's slightly different. So, and I just they wanted him pitched up a little bit higher because the other characters still had sort of higher voices, and give him just kind of some attitude. They wanted him to have a lot more attitude than Sonic, who was much more of a playful voice. So that's what I did. I was probably late 20s maybe at the time. And just kind of gave him that sort of pitched up version of hey, Sonic, right? And made it fun, but with some attitude. So it was great. And of course, working with Gary too. And Maurice LaMarche was on it, playing some great characters. Oh, he had a couple of fun roles, and Gary is Dr. Robotnik, and Ian Corlett was on it. And we had a blast. That was a really fun show too. But yeah.
Maybe for like a 7-year-old again.
Never in a million years would I think any of the shows that I work on would have the kind of life that they do. I wouldn't think 20 some years after I do something, there's going to be movies starring Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik. There's going to be more series upon series upon series, video game upon game.
Idris Elba's Knuckles.
Yeah, I know. It's just bizarre. You couldn't have. There was no wager I would have made to think that would happen. But it's also like that with Dragon Ball Z. No one would have told me in 1994, recording a show like that you could say 25, 26, 27 years later, they're still making this anime and it's still popular. Or with how long shows like Ninjago will run, and Transformers. Transformers, I might have believed would keep going, because it's just even for me, such a great toy. And I've even the Michael Bay movies, I've had a blast with watching these, and that's when I can see having a life. But I'm glad you had so much fun with Sonic Underground. I mean, I wish we got to do more of it, but
me too.
It didn't last long enough as far as I was concerned.
Gone too soon.
Gone too soon. Yeah.
Just to round it off, what's it like being a meme because of Vegeta?
What's it like to be in a meme? Well, let me tell you, it's bizarre to have to say.
How bizarre is it? Is it over 9,000?
It's over 9,000 bizarre. It is. When someone first told me, and there wasn't even the word meme when it first came out. When it first came out, it was early 2000s. Someone I believe it was early 2000s. Someone said, "Have you seen this thing on the YouTubes or what?" We don't know what it's all so new 20 years ago, where somebody crammed together you saying over 9,000 from Dragon Ball Z. And I'm like, over nine what? Like what? I don't remember lines from shows. Like that's not one I would even remember saying when you say hundreds of them. Like you just don't remember them when you say that many. And then I was shown it. And I thought, well, that's bizarre. Somebody had a lot of time on their hands. That's ridiculous. And then to see it still have a life of its own. I have hats from it. I have shirts from it. There's pop figures that are Vegeta that just are over 9,000 base. I just signed, I was at a convention in Texas and signed on a guy's arm my signature and then over 9,000 across this. And he was going straight to a tattoo artist to have it tattooed into his arm.
Wow.
Like, nobody would ever tell me and make me believe that was going to happen years ago. It's crazy and it's bizarre and I think it's nuts, but it's also fun. It's kind of fun that just a little thing like that can draw somebody into a show and give them a memory that in most cases is really positive. Just like you can hear a voice that instantly takes you to your childhood. There's certain shows and certain things like that for me. I love Back to the Future is one of my favorite shows. I grew up, it was a movie that I just loved when I was a kid. I loved that movie. And when you can turn the soundtrack on to Back to the Future and I'm instantly 17 again, watching it in the movie theater. And I feel like I'm in high school. It's just bizarre how a movie, how animation can do that. And I'm glad that if a meme can do it or a voice someone hears can do it, awesome. Let it happen.
Indeed.
Indeed. I love what it can do. The power of the internet.
Yeah, wonderful place. I got my start on YouTube. Still going.
Hey. And soon enough we'll be on a show together. Just you wait.
I hope so. I have a demo reel that someone's helping me send out to agencies, so hopefully one day.
Nice. That's awesome. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Brian, where can we find you on social media?
Oh, wow. Not near as many places as they can find you, Amber, but I mostly hang out like a troll and watch the things that make me mad and things that make me happy on Twitter, which is Brian Drummond VO. And the same Instagram, I once in a while pop in there, throw something up on there. Brian Drummond VO as well on Instagram. I do not have a YouTube channel, but you can go to IMDb to find out all the cool stuff about me, or go to Behind the Voice Actors as well. You'll get a really good idea of a lot of the voices and things that I've done in the past to sort of tune you in if you want an idea of what else did this kook do.
Brian, it's been a pleasure to talk to you today.
You too. Absolutely.
Thank you. See you at home. Thank you so much for watching this interview. Go check out Brian on his Twitter and his Instagram. We will be back with part 2 in the future, I promise. And that is a promise. I promise. So until then, stay safe, stay happy, be kind to yourself. And as always, thank you for watching. Bye. And
bye.
Cut.